Hi, and welcome to Two Tired Teachers.
Today we're going to be talking about free, yes we said free camping near Utah's Mighty Five. We just got back from a month-long trip where we actually hit 7 national parks, 2 national monuments, and we only paid to camp 3 nights. And those were where we had reservations before we left. One was a state park here in Texas, and then 2 nights
at the north rim
of the Grand Canyon. So we did a lot of free camping, and something we learned while we were in Utah is that 80% of the state is public lands. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. So we'll start with the national parks and just kind of go through them in the order that we went to them. We're going to be showing you pictures of where we camped, and we'll be putting up some GPS coordinates for you and letting you know a little bit of something about where these are located in relationship to the park. First park we went to,
we started at Canyonlands, and
we had planned on doing actually campgrounds while we were there, but they were full. And as we were heading out to Hamburger Rock Campground, Mylena spotted this absolutely amazing campsite, and we had seen, hey, there are people just pulling off. And what we learned was you have massive sites, a lot more privacy, and the views are unobstructed. I mean, it was amazing. And so the road there's a road that takes you over to the Needles section of Canyonlands, and then the only dispersed camping we saw in that area was that road that leads out to Hamburger Rock and beyond. There. And so it was amazing. It was, I believe, 3 miles back to the fee station.
Right.
And then a mile or so from there over to the visitor center. And so we were less than 5 miles from the visitor center, less than 3 miles from the park boundary. And it was awesome.
We looked at other camping. We looked at camping, and
we have a video about each of these places that we've camped. And so we want to, if you want to look at more about camping in that area, we have a complete video.
We felt like the campsite we found exceeded any paid campground we saw.
Absolutely. And so the next national park we hit was Arches. Moab is a tourist town.
It's a booming town.
And it's booming. And so the dispersed option that we chose was the one that was closest to the park, and it was still about 6 miles or so from the entrance to Arches National Park.
And with Arches, the reason that's going to make a difference is if you want to go to the park in the morning, you need to get up early enough to get there before they shut it down.
But still, we were closer to the visitor center and the entrance to the park than the people who were camping in the campground. That's an 18-mile scenic drive, and the campground is at the very end. So depending on what part of the park you want to be at. The road we chose was one that we had done some research on beforehand. Had we chosen a dispersed road that was like a mile further north, I mean, we saw people there, and it was a lot less crowded. And so if you're wanting a little bit more seclusion, that would be your option.
But we still had a gorgeous view of some mountains in the distance with snow still on them. We were there in early May.
Yeah, and I just want to let you know that we were there, it was free, and
it was wonderful.
It was. But then when we left there, we went around to Capitol Reef.
Capitol Reef I hadn't expected a lot from in anything. And
our dispersed, because we were coming from Moab, I had looked, and the east dispersed to me looked better. And it was amazing. If we didn't have to go around the boulder, we still were less than a half a mile from the border of the park. We were right against the Fremont River, so sleeping with our windows open, hearing that river gurgle overnight, it was just amazing. And it was used by tent campers and people in vans or camping out of their cars and stuff. There were only a couple of other RVs during the 3 nights that we were there who came and joined us. The west side was much more crowded and rougher roads.
Yes.
By the way, we have a very low 2-wheel drive van, and we're towing a low trailer. And so we did not bottom out or anything on any of these roads that we're telling you about. The view, in my opinion, was amazing.
Yes.
And I couldn't have been more pleased with camping anywhere. It was just spectacular.
Yes.
Bryce.
Yes. With Bryce, of course, we're still doing dispersed camping.
And we had actually talked about doing that Red Canyon campground, National Forest campground.
It's a gorgeous campground.
It is. And had we not found an amazing dispersed site, as we were driving, this was not one that was the top of my list, but it was Tom's best. And as we were going across to empty our tanks and we do talk about dump stations and stuff at these, but we were going across to the Red Canyon National Forest campground to empty our tanks. We saw an Allegro bus turning on this gravel road. So we're thinking, okay, if he's going down there, we went down there and
we had an amazing, truly amazing campsite.
Our campsite was maybe a half a mile from the paved road.
Yes.
You went down the gravel road. This one had tons of roads going off of it, but we found a site that was just off of the gravel road.
Yes.
And we were there 4 nights.
Yes.
I believe it was 6 miles to go back around to the entrance to Bryce. We were just about a half a mile off of the bike path, a little bit over that. It was closer than any other campground, public campground. Privately owned, there were a bunch that were right there at the entrance. But it was incredible.
Yes.
And when we left there, then we went around to Zion.
And again, Sharon had researched and found that the east side would probably be better than the west side.
And that is something we make a big deal about in the camping video about Zion and about Zion, the Zion National Park. If you're towing anything, you kind of have to make a decision east or west. Something I didn't realize, the east side is about 1,500 feet higher, which means cooler.
Yes.
At Zion.
And Zion does get warmer than the other parks because overall it's lower in elevation.
And so it cools off at night, but still, we were so thrilled with where we stayed and that Mount Carmel, which is where you go in the east side. There's a Chevron station. If you buy something, you get to use their dump station. So we used it on the way in and the way out. But we stayed there for 4 nights, and we were 5 or 6 miles from the fee station on the east side.
Yes.
Another advantage to being on the east side is going in doesn't take very long.
No.
We parked at our dispersed site, which the view was just amazing again, and large and all of that. But then left our trailer, our RV, and were able to drive through that tunnel.
Yes.
And we did that
There is
numerous times.
1.1 mile long tunnel.
That if you're towing anything, you have to hit those regulations that we explain a lot in both of those videos. And so we camped for free. We were gone 30 nights and paid for 3 nights lodging. Going back and picking up the extras that we did, just to let you know.
Natural bridges.
There's an abandoned airstrip that is amazing.
It's
pavement.
Got there, it had been raining and snowing and sleeting a little 1st of May. And
End of April.
And we we wanted to be on something pretty solid, not just mud, and this was perfect.
Yeah, it was asphalt and then gravel.
Yes.
And so we were there for 2 nights on that abandoned airstrip, and it was a total of 8 miles, 4 miles around to the road that turns to go into the National Monument, and then 4 miles from that road to the entrance. So a total of 8 miles from the National Monument, and it wasn't crowded, and you saw some amazing arches. Natural bridges are arches. Yes. Not all arches are natural bridges, but they were awesome and amazing, and I hiked a couple of trails and saw 3 people, the same 3 people on each trail. So it was great. I loved that stop. I loved that dispersed site. And I do want to mention at Canyonlands, we were actually parked on rock.
Yes.
I mean, it was rock. Moab, it was not as solid, but it was still well packed. Yes. We were on like a rock. That boulder was right there when we were at Capitol Reef. Everywhere we stayed, we were not parked on sand.
We weren't concerned about getting stuck.
Grand Escalante, we had decided to make a stop between Capitol Reef and Bryce.
Good decision, by the way.
And so we went to the visitor center at Escalante. We're asking about dispersed camping. He got out a permit book. The Hole in the Rock Road.
Yes.
You're actually in the National Monument, so it's 0 miles to get there. You're there. And we loved it. There was nothing to go and see. We were sitting there in the National Monument. We saw it while we were there. I mean, at our door. It was just gorgeous. And then Grand Canyon, we had planned on doing some dispersed camping there. There were some options. We talk about that in the video, but we ultimately made the decision
to leave
there and go get nearer Petrified Forest. The dispersed camping, free camping we did there for 3 nights was not right outside the door. It was about an hour's drive, but it was just a national forest there in Arizona. And once again, we just use that as our downtime. We've been on the go at these national parks. Use that as our downtime to have some days before we started a long drive home. But this is an awesome option. It gave us fluidity. It let us have flexibility.
And especially at Capitol Reef and the Needles part of Canyonlands, you're not going to find RV parks with hookups
anywhere nearby.
No.
And
so you're going to be dry camping whether you have a campsite that you pay for or not.
And the views we had were just incredible. I mean, it blew my mind. We realized that when we travel east, that's not going to be the option. But we found out that 80% of Utah is public lands. And so we thought this is going to be a good place to do some dispersed. And then it just kind of became a challenge of how many of these nights can we do for free. And so, like I said, we were gone 30 nights. We paid for the 3 nights that we had reservations for. And our views, our sights were awesome and amazing and
peaceful.
Yeah.
I mean, when we came back from whatever we'd been doing,
it was quiet. Well, for the most part,
relaxing.
There were Moab. There were more dirt bikes.
Yes.
Motorcycles.
ATVs.
Yeah, off-road motorcycles, etc. Everything quiets down when it's dark. I mean, that's just pretty much anywhere we were. But it was. We were just thrilled.
Yes.
That we took that leap of, we did a video recently about going with your comfort zone. We weren't really that comfortable doing that much dispersed. Prior to this, we had stayed at South Padre Island National Seashore. That was our first exposure. We'd done some dry camping on the Natchez Trace. But then at Badlands,
we did dispersed.
But this trip was
dispersed.
Just, out there. And I loved the freedom of saying, I think we've seen everything here. Let's go and make this extra stop. And that was so much fun. And like I said, we'll miss that when we're heading east. But we found the free camping and it's out there. these were where we stayed. There were a lot more options for
Yes.
most of these. And so if you're looking to hit the Mighty Five, the way we did it, when we did it, which was April and May of
Very tail end of April.
2021,
Yes.
we were able to find free camping near these national parks and had flexibility while we did it, and that was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Thanks for watching
Two Tired Teachers.